Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Underground Sound. I'm Emerson.
And I'm Noah.
And today, we got ourselves a little plan here. We're going to be reviewing Everything's for Sale by Boogie.
Yes. Okay. So this is one that was pretty interesting when Emerson recommended it to me, or at least told me to listen to it. It's from an artist who was signed under. Is this Shady Records?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's under Shady Records.
It's under Shady Records, which is Eminem's label. And so that's interesting because when you think of Dr. Dre or other producers who have come and discovered talent, you don't necessarily think of Eminem. And so that's why this is kind of a special album review, because it's kind of going to delve into, different parts of this artist's artistry and like what we heard on the album, but also just, is he worth Eminem's notoriety? Is he worth being under the Shady Records label? We're going to get into all of that, but first we're going to play some music.
Yep, so to start us off, we have Bank Robber by Collaborate, and then we're going to get into our review. All right, so that once again, that was Bank Robber by Collaborate, and Noah, I'll let you start us off with Boogie, because I got a lot I could say, but I think your opinions are a little more interesting, because I've been talking about this artist for years now, so I might be biased.
Okay, yeah, you might be biased.
I might be biased.
First of all, I'd like to preface this conversation with the fact that Emerson just told me he listened to this album about 20 times.
Look, it could have been less. It could have been. And
yes,
I want to be very thorough in
been.
my reviews. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, I appreciate that. 20 times seems like overkill, and I think I know his opinion now. But that aside, so this album is interesting to me because Boogie kind of takes on this very dark persona. Would you kind of just like very gloomy? Would you agree with that, Emerson?
I usually classify him as lullaby rap.
Lullaby rap? Well,
gloomy encompasses it, especially on the more on the sadder songs. But he was definitely uplifting, more upbeat stuff hidden in there.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not his go-to. It's definitely something he sprinkles in just to appease a different taste every now and then.
Yeah, well, I can definitely agree with that. This album is kind of hypnotic in some sort of ways. I feel like a lot of the songs on here, I feel like Rainy Days, which is I think his most popular song off the album, I think that's actually one of the weaker ones.
It's between that and Soho, I think, in terms of viewership.
Yeah, in terms of just like how commercially well known it's become. But I feel like Rainy Days is kind of more of a deviation than like some of the strongest points on the album. What was that one song? Silent Ride.
Silent Ride was the.
It's like
it was kind of the lead single. It was technically Self-Destruction, but that came out way earlier than the album.
Well, Silent Ride is kind of a good indicator of what the strongest points of the album are. And I find that when he kind of goes a little bit more jazzy, a little bit more low-key, and just kind of, in that sort of hypnotic, sort of just like dreamy sort of way, when he produces his music like that, I think that's where the album really shines. And what was that other song? Was it called Time?
There's a song called Time.
Called Time on there? Yeah, I really like that. What I think about this album is that I like how different it is, and it seems not necessarily wholly original, but very much like a product of something that had very little studio interference, which is something that I appreciate. And given that, I mean, we get to see Eminem on another feature, and that was like fine. Wasn't a huge fan of Eminem on this one. I think this album's pretty special for the most part. I only gave it one listen, not 20, but it's something that I kind of appreciate because I wasn't expecting it. It was something that's very easy listening, something that you can actually just kind of like sit in your room and listen to, or maybe even fall asleep to on some of the songs, I'll admit. I mean, and that's actually that's a good thing.
It's a compliment. It's a very dreamy album.
Yeah, it's a very dreamy album, and it's kind of something that's not even made to get you to think, because I feel like what Boogie is trying to say on this album, he's not trying to have a prophetic message like J. Cole or, somebody else who's trying to like get society to change. He's literally just expressing his thoughts on this album and kind of like the dark consciousness of his mind. It's not like Tyler, the Creator level of doom and gloom, but it's something that's kind of like this melancholy sort of cathartic expression of himself, the things that he's been thinking about and what he's taken over the course of his career. I feel like this is an album that is pretty honest, but not even brutally so. It's just something that's not even meant to make you think. It's just kind of a venting experience for him. You're listening to it. He's telling you something. He doesn't necessarily expect something to change from it. That's just his thoughts. And that's something I appreciate about this album. It's got kind of that like raw creativity on that front. And it's not afraid to just kind of, take a back seat and be like a little bit more jazzy sometimes, be a little bit more like, hypnotic in some of its delivery. But I mean, also that's for me. That is where the biggest parts of this album shine, and I think that singles like "Rainy Days" actually a little bit on the lower end of the spectrum for me. But
boo,
yeah, I know, Emerson. I really did like this
album. I haven't
album.
expressed my opinion on the album yet.
I know, I really did like this album. I'm not going to give it a final score yet because Emerson has to get his thoughts in first,
true.
and
I need
I'm
my
very
thoughts.
interested to hear what he has to say and if he agrees on some of the aspects that I've been saying.
Yeah, so I've been waiting for this album for 2.5 years now. He had been ever since he got signed by Shady Records. Actually, before that, I've just been waiting for an album from him. Huge fan of his stuff. Although I never thought his albums were great, I just really loved a handful of songs to the point where I honestly thought they were some of the best things I've ever listened to in my life. So I was just dying to hear what he could do with a record like Shady Records behind them.
Yeah.
Helping him out all the way. And I think Silent Ride, which was the second single off this and one of the earlier songs on the album, I think that song is absolutely incredible. I think it's one of his best he has in his catalog. Really good stuff. I mentioned Soho, which is featuring Jid. That one's, I think that's the most popular song, but it could be Rainy Days with Eminem.
I think it's Rainy Days.
Soho is incredible. And as Noah said perfectly, yeah, he is very kind of gloomy, but like in that like kind of soothing, sleepy type way. I think that's perfectly expressed in Skydive 2, Live 95.
Yeah.
I think Boogie really sounds a lot like No Name in the way that she just kind of makes the lullaby rap. I completely agree with you on Rainy Days. I think as soon as I saw Eminem was going to be featured on this album, as big as he is and as big as a fan I am, I was really worried because those two do not complement each other at all in my mind. So I was just already thinking like that doesn't seem to work.
It feels forced in my
Yeah,
opinion. Instead of
and
like
then you
a
listen to the
natural
song
compliment.
and you're like, yeah, that's exactly it. They don't have any chemistry. They don't complement one another. They don't. They're both great, but they're just so different in their styles of music that the song itself is kind of a mess. So yeah, I don't like the song too much. I like Boogie's parts on it, but Eminem just seems so out of place in that it just seems awkward, despite it being a fine verse. Honestly, the only downsides to this album for me, I think, was probably Whose Fault, No Warning, and then after that you have Self-Destruction, Time, and I think both those songs are fantastic.
Yeah, they are.
I think overall the album is just amazing. Like Noah said, I think I've listened to it 20 times now. I've gone over it time and time again. It's a really good album. I don't think it has like, I don't know, like there's usually something that just makes it feel like it goes over that hill. And to me, this album just kind of gets to the top and then just kind of sits there. Doesn't really go over it. But I really, really like it. Honestly, I don't have any issues with it. This is just exactly what I wanted out of a Boogie album, was just a lot of high-quality songs in one short, nice, and condensed album, which is exactly what this is. I loved it.
Yeah, and you know, Emerson, sometimes it's just what you need. You don't need some kind of groundbreaking, ridiculous, just like over-the-top album. Sometimes you just need to meet expectations, not even be a little bit disappointed, and just say, you know what, I like this. I'm just going to keep this for me, and I'm going to be able to listen to it time after time and, you know, be able to pick out the things I appreciate about this album. And, you know, I can go ahead and say this is something that made me want to continue listening to him and something that kind of brings up the respect I have for him as an artist already. There's songs on here that you truly love. There's a couple here and there that you aren't too big on. But at the same time, that's all I can ask out of any artist. You don't have to blow me away. Just, like, give me something good. Just give me something consistent.
Yeah.
And I felt on this album there was a lot of consistency.
Very consistent, yeah. I think really the only downside, I think, is that it doesn't have anything to blow you away. I think that's about it. And that's a hard bar to set for an artist. Like, well, it wasn't blown away. Well, it's like, well, maybe I was just trying to appease you for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think this album was made with the intention of doing that.
It was very much so made for his core fan base.
Yeah.
Outside of the Eminem feature, it seemed like Boogie was just doing what he normally does on a little bigger scale. And I think for the most part, his fans really liked it. I don't know any other fans personally. I'm the only one still. I've tried putting Boogie on a lot of other people, and they don't listen to me. They should. They should always listen to me, but they don't.
That's interesting.
But yeah, so as far as I know, I'm the only Boogie fan. But from his Twitter fans, they seem to really enjoy it. That's probably tells you little to nothing. They'll enjoy anything that their artist puts out.
Yeah. Well, I think this is important, and in this case, I feel like Well, what we were talking about before, this is off of Shady Records, and of course, you know, we're talking about the dynamic between Dr. Dre, Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and, you know, different artists, like big artists that have been able to find talent, such as Kanye West with Kid Cudi. And right now, in kind of a complimentary sense for this album, I want to know, what do you think of Eminem's job as a producer so far? Do you think he found the right talent? Do you think he's doing his job well? Or do you think we just need more time before we realize, like, should he interfere or should he just be a producer? Does he have to, like, make a feature? Does he have to do any of that?
I mean, it's nice to see Eminem help out because obviously Boogie's not the biggest name. So having a name like Eminem on the track list, it's definitely beneficial and helpful to get his name out there. However, it's just so forced that it just seems awkward. But I don't think it's really a bad thing to have one feature on there just to help boost publicity and get your name out there. So I think it's fine. I think Eminem did a good job, but it was just so forced and so out of place. It didn't make sense. It was just weird.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. Eminem is kind of starting to annoy me now. Every release he has, like, some of them it's just inconsistent. It's never reached a very good
It's his
level
own
yet.
fault why people start to question his GOAT status when rap music, because honestly, he's put out some weird stuff recently.
It's been really weird. But I mean, that aside, we were speaking about Eminem's feature. Something I do appreciate on this album is that the majority of the songs actually do not have a feature on them.
Yeah, it doesn't overdo it at all. I'm looking at it right now. What we got?
I think we have 8 songs without a feature, which is good, out of the 13, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty good. And
yeah, he does a lot on his own. He does not make sure he relies on the backs of others.
And I think that's really important, especially with, like, this is definitely his biggest release to date, especially with, like, the most following. And I think it's important that at a time where almost every song that we hear, especially in the rap genre, it's kind of built upon features, like, you know, networking and being able to, like, be with, like, whatever artist. It's really, really refreshing to me to see an album that seems like it was mostly created from that artist themselves. And it's that's something I can appreciate about this album. I don't think I'm going to remember this for years to come, but I think I'm going to enjoy it for the next small frame of time, at least until the end of this year. This was good. It was 39 minutes, so it was short and sweet. And I enjoyed what I heard, and I'd like to look more into Boogie, his previous discography.
I will be happy to help. I know exactly where to go with Boogie. But all right, so we're going to play you Rainy Days, the song that we kind of bashed, featuring Eminem. And then I think we're going to give our final thoughts as potentially a score to go along with this. All right, so once again, that was Rainy Days by Boogie featuring Eminem. And overall, I think the album was really, really good. Didn't blow me away, but I don't think it needed to. It was just a great, soothing, relaxing album. The number I'm thinking, I think 8.2. I think that's what I want to go with.
You said it was amazing at one point, though, didn't you?
It was an awesome album, but it didn't. I think in order to get up to 9 or so, I think that's where it really has to kind of just blow you away.
Fair.
But I think it's really good. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, for me personally, I feel like I would probably give it a 7.5.
7.5.
I thought it was quite good. Definitely above the 7 range, but I didn't feel like it necessarily reached the height of 8, which would be great. I thought it was really good, but part of it just kind of wasn't for me. I really did enjoy the consistency of, like, the first, what would you say, 60% of the album or so.
It was very consistent from the beginning, yeah. I think it falls a little shaky towards the end, but I still liked a lot of it.
It got a little tonally inconsistent.
But it does have its faults, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And, I mean, this makes for good listening, absolutely. This is something I can recommend to anybody who's interested in the music that we do listen to. It's something that is different. It's a little bit more dreamy, like we were saying, a little bit more hypnotic, but at the same time, this is the kind of stuff I like listening to. It's original, and that's what I like to hear in my music. So, especially considering all the factors that we were talking about and how much praise that we did give certain parts of the album. Check it out, for real.
Yeah, well, you heard it here first. 8.2, 7.5. It's a quality album.
It is.
And that will be that. All right, so moving on to some more music, I have lined up some Apathy songs. Apathy's a rapper with his most recent album being The Widow's Son, which came out, I believe, 2017. It was definitely one of those underrated rap albums that I thought were definitely highly flawed, but really good just in general. And two of the big high points, which we're going to play here, is I Keep On, featuring Pharoah Monch and Pete Rock, and then the song Never Fall Off. Once again, both by Apathy.
Give them a listen.
All right, so me and Noah here are both fans of MF Doom. Me, probably more than him. But
Probably.
I was trying to get him more into Czarface. So, and they had a collaborative album from, 2017?
2018.
2018.
April.
In April. Tell me a little bit about that album, Noah.
So, this is the album that I listened to instead of the most recent release that was put out, I think, last month, right, Emerson?
Yeah,
February?
Czarface meets Ghostface, just with Ghostface Killer.
Yeah, and then this is Czarface meets Metal
Face.
Yeah, and Czarface, if you're not familiar, is a hip-hop supergroup.
They're MF Doom knockoffs, but they're good at what they do.
Well, Inspector Deck is part of Wu-Tang. Like, you gotta respect that, at least.
I
you
do.
know?
I do respect their knockoffness.
Okay, very funny. Anyway, and the group was inspired by a childhood love of comic books. So
They're inspired by MF Doom.
Yep. Anyway,
They sound exactly like MF Doom.
you know what? I'm gonna let Emerson do the talking right now.
Look,
I'm gonna let Emerson do the talking. Go ahead,
I
Emerson.
just wanted to rub it in that Noah listened to the wrong album.
Yeah, I did.
The album was okay. This one, actually, both of them, Czarface meets Ghostface and Metal Face, they're both okay. Honestly, Czarface, their album Every Hero Needs a Villain is fantastic, and everything since has been lackluster, and it looks like they're just dying to get someone to work with them because they cannot do something on themselves. It's kind of weird. But I think the best song on Czarface meets Metal Face with MF Doom is Bomb Throne. Would you agree?
I'd say so. Probably top 3.
Top 3? What are the other ones you liked?
I cannot remember the track list, but I remember how they went. And I listened to the wrong one because I listened to it on Saturday. And I'm mad at myself, and I'm sorry.
Well, I loved Bomb Throne. I think it is a perfect example of the lyrical genius that everybody involved has, and I think the beat is just so gripping. I love it. Music video is also really good, too. So,
yeah.
Once again, Bomb Throne by Czarface and MF Doom.
All right. So that was just Czarface and MF Doom. What we have now is a song called Skeletons by Travis Scott. This was off of his most recent album, Astroworld, which we talked about in great length for our Grammy show.
Very, very great length.
Sadly, to my knowledge, it did not win any Grammys. Is that true, Emerson?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it didn't win any Grammys. I
can't remember. I didn't watch them. I never do. I just keep up with them.
Well, it was a product of extremely good work, and this one delivered to me. And I believe Emerson expressed a similar sentiment, at least.
I was more mad that that Pusha T specifically walked away with nothing, despite having one of the best years in rap history.
Yeah, well, I absolutely can agree with that, especially for Travis Scott. I felt like
Pusha T was only nominated for one, though. The more I thought about it, the more that was the real anger.
No,
How
definitely.
do you only get nominated for
definitely.
one Grammy?
But Pusha T aside, we're talking about Travis Scott.
Travis Scott.
This album had massive hype.
You got me talking Grammys.
Yeah.
The only thing I really took away from the Grammys was Pusha T got robbed.
Well, this album had massive hype with extremely high production values and top-notch artists on its featured songs, and it mostly delivered. And this song that I'm going to play for y'all next is called Skeletons, featuring The Weeknd and Pharrell Williams. So go ahead and give it a listen.
All right, so the next song here is Roaches by Maxo Cream. Maxo Cream is pretty underground, pretty small right now, but he is, some believe that he is poised to be the next popular lyrical rapper to come up within the next year or two. I hope that's true. He's very aggressive, very fun, very rough and tough, and it's enjoyable to listen to that style. Very similar to kind of like Nipsey Hussle, Kevin Gates early on, kind of that style of music, and I love that style. So that's nice. The song we have here is my buddy's favorite song, Roaches. However, my personal favorite is Grannies. So we agree to disagree, but both the songs are really good, and the one we have here is Roaches, once again by Maxo Cream. Excuse me?
Excuse me.
Noah's trying to defend Trippie Redd as if he has talent.
As if Emerson has talent to make music like that. I
do
think
not.
not. I think not.
I do not create, I critique. And Trippie Redd sucks.
You are like the Anton Ego of Ratatouille for rap music.
No,
honestly,
because I love the lower.
you have an
I love the
opinion
lower
and you're
guy
just
stuff.
waving it around
I
everywhere.
love it when the rats make the food. That's my favorite.
Something hurt you. Something hurt you along the way, and now you just have all
Trippie
negative
Redd
things
never
to say.
hurt me. He just. What was his debut mixtape? Because that's the one I listened to and thought it was god awful.
That was the only thing you've listened to.
Yeah, the entire mixtape.
Emerson, we're not talking about this right now. Keep going.
There was like, 15 songs on it?
15 songs, sure. Sometimes 15 songs doesn't necessarily mean it's good or bad.
There was not even a single shred of interest in that thing. It was just so bad. There was all the chorus lines were bad. All the beats were bad. All the verses were bad. It was just wall to wall terrible. There was nothing to enjoy out of it.
Music is
What are you recommending
subjective,
by Trippie Red by me? What are you recommending? I'll listen to it.
At least listen to Topanga. That was the most recent hit that he had.
Fine.
That was but A Love Letter to You 3. Try to make it through at least a quarter of the album, please.
Now I gotta listen to a whole album? Give me 2 songs.
We'll talk about this later. Anyway, what's up
You
next?
can't give me a whole album. A whole album of trash?
I didn't say a whole album.
Give me the highlights.
Oh my goodness. All right.
He doesn't have the highlights. Why? Because they don't exist. It's terrible. I'm sure it's terrible. I'm going to go into it thinking it's terrible. I'm going to come out of it thinking it's terrible. That's how it's going to go.
Well, that's because you have a horrible mindset about Emerson.
No, it's because
that's all I have to say.
he's a horrible artist.
Okay. You're a horrible critic.
And red's my favorite color, so you'd think I'd enjoy him.
No, it's Trippy Red with 2 Ds, so...
That's still pronounced red.
Yeah, I know, but it's not in the same vein. All right, we're not going to argue about this any further. Emerson, please move on.
Crown Holder by Skyzoo. Amazing lyrics.
Horrible artist. Wow.
He struggles.
Don't like any of him.
He struggles. His production values hit or miss. His chorus lines can suck at times. Honestly, his best album was The Easy Truth, which was produced completely by Apollo Brown, who is an amazing producer out of Detroit, just saying. But outside of Apollo Brown's work with him, hit or miss. But the best song off his most recent album, In Celebration of Us, is by far Crown Holder. Once again, by Skyzoo. All right, so for the very last song that we will play, kind of as an outro, will be Drinking Sessions by Big Crit featuring Keon Harold. Probably the most emotional song, I think, by Big Crit. He's got a lot, but this one really digs deep into his soul personally. And this is again off his Forever is a Mighty Long Time, really long album. Forever is a Mighty Long Time, really long title name, and really long album. I think it had 27 tracks, but it was really good. But yeah, that will basically, I think, close up the show. Noah, any final thoughts for today?
No. Besides the fact that Emerson is going to listen to a little bit of Trippie Red, and he's going to come back with his opinion, even though he has a bad attitude about it. Even though he has a very bad, self-righteous attitude about it, he's going to give his opinions
self-righteous
next week.
Is nice.
Exactly. I described it. I was spot on. Anyway,
we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. If I have a change of heart, I will definitely express it. If not, I will definitely express it.
Okay. Yeah.
My opinion shall be heard. But that's really it. I think I don't have anything else to say other than we finally got last week's recording in. Took a while.
We did.
Took a while, but we got it, and I will be. We're working with that. But, okay. Once again, Drinking Sessions by Big Crit, and I'm Emerson.
I'm Noah.
And we are Underground Sound, Elon, WSOE 89.3.